Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. Thanks for joining us. We have a lot to talk to you about beyond Facebook. But where does Facebook stand from your perspective? Have they come forward enough to folks in Washington like you in terms of what they plan to do to rectify the problem and what exactly has gone wrong?
You know, I think there are two different questions we can look at. One is a legal question. When you signed your agreement, your conditions to use Facebook, did you agree to all of this? And that's a real legal question. I think there is legal exposure for them in determining whether or not you've agreed to things that they're doing with your data. The second question is whether or not you want to participate with a group that does so much sharing of your data and is so invasive. And that's sort of an individual decision. People have to decide, are they okay with it or not? I separate the private world of Facebook, though, from the government in a big way, because Facebook's obviously not going to put you in jail and can't hold you in legal jeopardy. So I've been more concerned with government snooping and loss of privacy to government entities than I have been to Facebook. But there are big legal questions. Does your agreement, did you sign, did you agree to all of this? And I think there are still potential legal ramifications from all of this.
Real quick, John Hammond, just 1 second. Did they agree to everything that you've just uncovered? Did users agree to where their information went?
There is no explicit consent for users with these devices. What Facebook says is, if you agree to share something with your friend, you have agreed to share it with your friend on any device they use.
Wow.
Which is not how the FTC consent order they signed is supposed to work, in the opinion of a lot of experts.
That seems legally concerning. John Hallman.
Senator Paul, John Hallman here. I want to ask you about some of the news from yesterday related to Donald Trump and the various aspects of the Mueller probe that he addressed and that have been reported on in the last 24 hours. The president, obviously, his lawyers asserting that he has the right, and he is asserting that he has the right to pardon himself, that he has the right to shut down the Mueller probe, that he can ignore a subpoena from Bob Mueller, and so on and so forth. Are you at all concerned with the rather extreme, if you take it all together, the rather extreme vision of executive privilege and executive authority that seem to be that the president is asserting and his lawyers are asserting on his behalf?
You know, I think it's unknown whether a president can pardon themselves. If you read the Constitution, it's pretty wide open. It's never been tested. I think it will be universally condemned if that were to happen. And even the president said, you know, I don't plan on doing this because I'm innocent. But I think we have a jockeying back and forth because we have an incredibly powerful prosecutor that's been enabled by this. And it's really why I've become very much opposed to the idea of special prosecutors, really no matter which side we're on, because I think if we do this after every election, we're simply going to become more like a banana republic where we're prosecuting the party that lost or won back and forth, and we'll never get to the issues of the day. So I think we have been sidetracked. For example, I think it's very important whether or not we're at war in 7 different places around the world and whether or not Congress should decide that versus the president. And somehow I think that's more important than all of this jockeying back and forth that I think really has their political questions, not necessarily questions of which direction we want the country to go.
Senator, let me ask you just one quick follow-up, sir. If the president were to move unilaterally to fire Bob Mueller, your reaction to that would be what?
I think it would be a mistake for him to do that, and I think that he understands it would be a mistake as well. I think that there are a lot of questions about whether or not you can be indicted, subpoenaed, forced to ask questions, et cetera, and there are arguments on both sides of the question for this. I think that a lot of Americans have a bad taste in their mouth when they see the government going into your private attorney's office, looking through all of the papers, and the ramifications of that invasion of the attorney-client privilege, I think, worries people. I think people are concerned about how much power that a prosecutor has. I mean, you remember Eliot Spitzer? You remember all of these famous New York? They would go to people and they would basically blackmail people and say, I know you're having an affair with so-and-so, and I'm going to tell your wife unless you help us in the investigation. Prosecutors have too much power throughout our system, and there are a lot of people who are disadvantaged by this, not just presidents, but actually minorities and people in poverty are every day being manipulated and abused by a system where prosecutors have too much power.
Hey, Senator, you were just talking a few moments ago about our 17-year-long war in both Afghanistan and Iraq and other parts of the world. Tomorrow is June 6th, the anniversary of D-Day, and in history's measurement, I mean, World War II was over in the snap of a finger, December 1941 to August of 1945. You're holding a hearing tomorrow on the authorization of use of military force, which I think was first established or enacted in 2001. Where are we on that, and how long are we going to continue with this open-ended authorization for war?
In 2001, we voted to go after those who attacked us on 9/11 or those who harbored or aided and abetted them. The war is way beyond that. We accomplished that many, many years ago. We're now involved in civil wars in, 3 different continents, on Africa, the Middle East, and in Asia, and none of it's been authorized by Congress. So Senators Corker and Kaine came up with an authorization. They said we should do our job and Congress should authorize it. The problem with their authorization is it actually transfers the ability or the power from Congress to the president, and the only way we could stop war if it passes is to have a 2/3 vote by Congress to stop the president. So I think their authorization is a mistake. It's well intended, but it's a real mistake because it transfers authority from Congress to the president. But I think we've been at war for too long. We're at war in too many places, and I'm for stopping, ending the Afghan war, and I think the debate over the constitutionality of this new proposal will give us a forum to talk about whether or not we should still be at war in Africa, in Afghanistan, and all of these different places.
All right, Senator Rand Paul, we really appreciate your being on the show this morning.
Thank you.
Up next.